talking to you. Today is Monday, the 20th of July, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. Now, this week, I want to bring you a very different angle of how to see an advisory board, particularly when you have an operating system around an advisory board. That actually is the model that we have in front of us. And this is value creation. So organizations need a value. They create value. They need to create something useful for the investors, for the lenders, for the shareholders, right? So it's this value that actually attracts capital, attract people, attract customers, attract suppliers, etc., etc. Now, how we create this value? Well, this is a value creation week, so we're going to look at it from the advisory point of view, just to make sure that you have another perspective how to do this. So, value creation is not a slogan, and many people use it as a slogan. So, creation they do it as a slide or as a side thing, but value creation is a working rhythm, right? So you build on that capacity. So this is where many founders and executive teams and boards get stuck, because they have growth plans, they have capital needs, they have controls, they have transformation projects, board meetings, management updates, etc., but the parts do not always connect, and that is a problem, because then it's very difficult to understand where is the value of the organization. So, for example, growth starts to move away, capital moved in another direction, controls lag behind, transformations start to be late, so you start to lose relevance in the market, so the values start to be discounted, as they say in the investment circles, meaning that actually you get less valuation for your organization. Or the things start everywhere else, or you try to restart everywhere and everything at the same time, and then it becomes very chaotic, right? So, or even worse, you start to drift, which is a topic today. When you're drifting with all these things are going around, but no with a clear direction, clear milestone how to achieve things. So if we look at the model, the advisory board operating system, you have scaling on top, predictability on the right, systems on the bottom, and edge, your innovation, your transformation at the left. So advisory board operating system sits right in the center. So why this model? Because the advisory board is not there to give you random advice. It's there to help you as a founder, the board, and the leadership team connect with the moving parts to create the value that we are looking for and avoid the drift. Now, let's take a look at three problems with this. Problem number one is, as I mentioned, the growth drift. The company pushes for more revenue, but does not always know whether the growth is clean. Some customers are profitable, yes, some are not. Some work repeats, but some work drains to the team because it's too exhausting, and actually probably it's a bad contract. Some partnerships create reach, right? You go into the different market, different networks, but some create more confusion because what's going on there? So it seems that the top line moves, but the board cannot always see what kind of growth is arriving. And that is a drift, because you say where we are going with all this, right? So you see the movement, but there's not a direction, there's not a destination. Problem number two is a capital drift, and this is a big problem. The company inherits a funding shape instead of designed one, right? Or if you identify these, you try to adapt to this inherit process of capital raising or capital sources instead of designing the right one. So it's a bit of debt here, a bit of equity there, a facility agreed under pressure, perhaps a time ago. So a shareholder right, nobody thought about enough, and now they're coming back, and you say, "Oh my God, what are we going to do with this?" So then the business realizes the capital stack is shaping the strategy. So it's the other way around. So instead of the strategy supported by the capital stack, it's the other way around. So the capital stack is shaping your strategy. So it's limiting your company rather than supporting it. And problem number three is the transformation drift. And this is when the Change starts with energy, then becomes scattered. New tools, new projects, new promises, new meetings. Yet the board or the leadership team or yourself as a founder cannot clearly say what is being kept, what is being stopped, what is being tested, and what is being doubled down on, right? So we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. So if you cannot have these mechanisms to switch off certain projects, to fuel other projects, or to continue other projects, and you don't have that 100% clear, that is a transformation problem, and you start to drift and drain the budgets and the teams everywhere else, and that's a big problem. Now, in other words, imagine this company could be a car with a strong engine. Yeah, it's a good company, good history, good narrative, but a weak gearbox, meaning the power is there, but it does not reach the road cleanly. The engine works harder, the noise gets louder, the movement feels real, but the transfer is poor, and the performance when you go into the track is clearly not there. So it left a lot on the engine and in the structure, but it doesn't transfer that into the track. So it's like a nice view or a beautiful potential, if you may, but actually the performance is not there. So as a board advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following. Start with the full advisory board operating system view before trying to fix one noisy symptom. And this is very hard to do. So let me walk you through how to do this. If scale is weak, and this is the top of the model, the business grows through strain. So if predictability is weak, the business struggles to raise or use capital well. If the systems are weak, I'm not only talking about IT, which is hardware and software, I'm talking about workflows, operation procedures, right? Triage of delegation of authority, etc., etc. So if that is weak, the business takes pressure through people, not through processes, right? You want the processes to leverage your people, or your people to leverage the process so they work smarter, not harder. And if the edge, your transformation, your innovation is weak, the business protects an aging model for too long. So the advisory board adds value because it brings independent judgment at the point where the business is most likely to fool itself, right? And that happens. A few questions that you can make a note here, for example, that you can ask yourself now and start to consider. Is this growth real, or is it just movement, right? There's a lot of noise, a lot of movement, but it's not real growth. Is the capital structure designed or inherited, as I mentioned? The other question could be, is resilience proven or only described? And we're going to talk about resilience later in the week too. Is it transformation stage or scattered? Which means that are you relevant for the next period of time, the next 6 months, the next year, the next 3 years? Is still your company relevant to your customers, supply chain, your network, etc., your suppliers, your distribution systems, etc. So those questions could be, good question, but they are not always easy to answer. And that's why they are designed that way. So is it one or, right? So, or it means actually is a negative and positive in a spectrum of negative and positives. So the ideal situation is in the positive, and the current situation might be not the best one. It could be the best one, but we have to understand why it is the best one, right? So, and that is the point. The advisory board should help the business see the pressure earlier, name it very clearly, and bring the right specialist capability before the issue becomes very expensive. So what do you gain working with me? 3 things: business outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. The outcome is a joined up value creating rhythm. Growth, capital, controls, and transformation stop fighting each other and start supporting each other, right? So this is what most of the time happen in the companies. The companies see that they have the next fire to put down, but they don't understand which is the cause of that. The fire is a consequence, is not the cause. And you're fighting consequences, the symptoms, not the root causes of that thing. And this is coming from different things, as we mentioned today: growth, capital, control, transformation, etc., etc. The differentiator is a rotating international advisory board. The advisory board is built around the milestone in front of your company. You get faster implementation than hiring one executive, lower overhead than a big consulting firm, and not talent locked in, so members can be swapped every 6 months as the company evolves in the model of the advisory board operating system or the next milestone, right? And in terms of risk reduction is reducing the drift. So the business stopped carrying the wrong structure, the wrong advice, and the wrong capability for too long. Now, let's take an action that you can do in 30 minutes or less, and that give you some capacity to understand where is the drift, right? So we have here a wonderful drift map to understand where the drift is going, right? So before your next meeting with your team, your executive team, your board, make these 4 boxes on one page. It's very simple. Put scalable, scale, predictability, systems, and edge. Under each box, write one decision the board or yourself as a founder or your executive team must make in the next 90 days. If those decisions do not connect to each other, you have found the drift, right? So things have to be connected to each other to make sure that the company push in all directions the same way, with the same message, with the same energy. Otherwise, what you're doing is pretty much pulling in 4 different directions, right? Now, once you identify the drift, you don't have to take action immediately, but at least you start to understand where the things are not put it together in a way that actually push the company towards what you're looking for. So let's pause here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because tomorrow we move into specifically scale, the top of the model. We will look at why a business can have growth and still carry a weak quality of growth story underneath. And when you have growth with poor quality, in reality, what you have is a lot of noise. But I'm not going to give you too much of, because tomorrow we are going to drill down in this very specifically. Now, if you're a founder with a company with more than 50 employees or more than 10 million in revenue, and you want an international advisory board that helps you turn growth, capital resilience, and reinvention into one operating system, let's have a 30-minute chat so I can understand where you're coming from, where you are today, where you would like to go, and which milestone needs to be addressed is in the right capabilities to help you to reach out the goals that you have in front of your company. So have a great day.